Hello again, fellow YouTubers. It's 6:30 a.m., so if I get some things wrong, I apologize. Today we are reviewing a plane. Can't fly because it's foggy as hell and it's still dark and I haven't put LEDs on it yet. It's the Hobby Zone Horizon Hobby DeltaRay. Actually, Firebird DeltaRay. As you see, I have already wrecked it, but the cool thing about this is it is styrofoam, so whatever breaks, as long as it's not a wing like mine. I'll go over some features on this. Mine, I was turning it around and bringing it back, and I was banked like this, and it was losing altitude, and I got disoriented, and it ended up going even further, and then it ended up going into the ground like that, breaking off the nose. But one thing everybody says about this plane is it is a little nose heavy. So adding the super glue has actually added a little weight to the front. And let me point, the biggest flaw, there's two huge flaws with this plane. Brushed motors, no, actually, let's go with three. Brushed motors, a proprietary receiver. I'll actually open it up. A proprietary receiver and everything right there. So, I mean, that's the battery done charging. But, I mean, that little green thing right there, that's the receiver, that's everything. And here's the antenna right here. Everybody claims there's not an antenna. Yes, there is. You just have to find it and pull it through. So, brushed motors, don't really like that, but I can upgrade to better brushed motors that the brushes can be replaced with different brushes and stuff like that. They're called 180 Extreme motors, and I'm actually going to purchase some of them because they're only about $25 for a set of two, and all you have to do is solder them in place. Of course, the receiver being what it is, I mean, it's an amazing plane for starters such as me. I am a beginner when it comes to planes. I've been flying quadcopters for about 6 months now. I've only wrecked twice, knock on wood. So, where I fly in a field that has a lot of brush, so I take my landing gear off, and it also creates less drag. Another really big problem that I noticed was the stock battery. This is the stock battery. As you can see, I changed the stock connector are like EC3. They can't carry enough amperage to really power everything, to get enough power to the motors and really make it so it can climb and do the fun stuff that most people want to do. So I have this truck, and it takes 2-cell and 3-cell, but I stick with 2 cells at the moment because I'm relatively new to vehicles also. So I had bought a 2200 milliamp that I thought would work for this, for the truck, but it's actually too small. Doesn't have enough milliamps. So the battery I ended up going with for the truck is a Racer's Edge 5000 milliamp hour 7.425C discharge, 2-cell LiPo, has a burst rating of 50C, so 50 amps. Regular running 25 amps, but I mean, with this truck, if you try to start off full throttle, you can't. The truck I'm talking of is the Hellion Dominus, and I put a Castle Sidewinder SV3, the third version, that has a fan on top of the ESC, so it doesn't overheat. So I had this battery, and I wanted to see if it would fit. So on both the plane, and the battery already came with it, but I use XT60 connectors for everything right now. Seeing that I'm not getting into anything that's overly powerful or takes more than 60 amps at once. These do more. These connectors, I mean, I wouldn't use anything else until I go to 4, 5, and 6 cell batteries. That's when I'll jump up to a better connector. But I've been using the XT60s with my Phantoms since the day I bought it, and I got a lot of extra XT60 connectors for when I buy batteries, so I don't have to buy another connector. But the regular battery, when you get it, when you get the plane, you have to attach the wingtips. As you can see, that's just taped on, double-sided tape, and then it pushes up in place. And then I used packing tape because the tape that comes with it, the adhesive is not very strong at all. So I used packing tape, not a lot because you don't want to add weight. But to put the battery in, you slide this sideways, open up your bay. I actually have mine attached with some tape so it won't fall off possibly. There's some soft Velcro already in here. So in the box you actually have to attach the Velcro to the battery. And it doesn't tell you where to mount the battery. But I know the center of gravity is right here. Right where these little 2 finger holes are for launching. For hand launch. And as you can see the size. This at full throttle, about 5 minutes. Maybe. And it's hot by the time you're done because it's not supplying enough power. So we remove it. And I was a little cautious about it, but I put in the Turniggy 2200 that has a 25 to 35 C discharge with a burst rating of, I believe, 60 amps. And a lot of people are saying, no, don't do that. You're going to burn out the receiver and all this stuff. Every flight I've done, except for the first 2, I've done with this battery. It fits better. It evens out the weight a little more. As you see, I did have to modify the center. I had to pull out some of the styrofoam. I had to rip it out so the battery could sit a little further forward. Because if not, it will be sitting way back here, and it will be way too tail heavy. Because you got to remember, the center of gravity is 14.4 inches from the tip. So that's right here. So I install the battery, about right here, and just push it down in place. And it's actually a very strong friction hold. Even without Velcro or anything, as you can see, I'll move my hand and it's staying in place. You also have to double side tape the stationary rudder. This doesn't work. It has a differential thrust It has 2 counter rotating motors. So it actually has a raileron or something like that, where the rudder and ailerons work together. And as I said, there is no rudder. It's the differential thrust that works as your rudder. And it has what's called a safe mode. And this is when we start getting into the transmitter. With that battery, I get about 30-minute flight times. And that's multiple launches, multiple landings. And as you see, I have crashed mine. Super glue it back in place. Works great. It really made it so, I mean, the problem I had with it at first was it would always, every time I would give it gas, it would go straight up. And it was like, what the hell? I mean, how am I supposed to control it if it's going to go straight up every time I go to gas it? So, I actually changed my linkages. At the servos, I moved it up one, and at the ailerons, I moved it down. So I have more throw on the ailerons with the servos. And yesterday I actually dialed in my trim by spinning the linkages and getting it so the trim on the remote, I actually have some adjustability. Now, the controller is the most expensive part. This is a $70 Spectrum DX4. I love it. It has your regular trainer mode, which will only allow it to pitch so far or roll so far. Then you can go down one, and it gives you a little more to play with. And then you can go into full, where you have no, it has, the thing is, when you plug it in, it has gyros that kick in and keep it straight. And one really cool thing about it is, if you ever get into a problem where you're not sure if you're going to be able to make it, or if you lose control or something, you hit this button and it will completely straighten itself out. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're like this, upside down and nose down. It will real quick, and it always finds the fastest path to being upright. I haven't really tested the range yet. Got a lot of throttle. I usually leave it at full throttle, but I did notice that at full throttle with the Turnigy battery, it goes so fast that the wings are literally fluttering because it's going so fast. So I gotta figure out some way to strengthen the wings so they won't flutter. But it is a Delta wing design, so that basically means the entire body is nothing but a big ass wing. So it creates so much lift. The one downside is the brush motors are a little underpowered. That's why I'm going to put the 180 extremes. The controller also has rates low, which makes it so everything's slower, smoother, or high, where you hit something, it happens immediately. Of course, you've got your aileron trim up and down, and then side to how it's balanced. And then this is basically your rudder trim, but like I said, there is no rudder. It's actually the differential throttle trim. And then you have your regular throttle trim right here. So, throttle trim, rudder or differential thrust trim, aileron up and down trim, and then aileron equalizer trim. I don't know exactly what it's called. But it has the 2.4 gigahertz DSM spread spectrum technology, and I've heard a lot of good stuff about that. No one ever losing connection. And even when you turn it on, it's really cool. There's a red and then 3 green lights, so it lets you know the power of your batteries at all times. But the really cool thing is the basically I like to call it the oh shit button. You get in some trouble, you hit it, you can hold it, and you basically have autopilot. And another cool thing is there's a trainer port in the back. So if someone that has never flown, like myself, I had never flown a plane up until I bought this 3 days ago. I had never flown a plane. I flew it, landed it, did great. Yesterday, I got cocky, basically, and it ended up in the ground at a good 35-40 degrees, full throttle right into the ground. And I'm very surprised at how tough it is. The only thing that happened with the motors was the props got pushed further back, so I just had to pull them off, but the motors are still running great. As you see, it has landing gear, and the rear mains are very far apart, so you don't have to worry about it flipping over while you're taxiing. And as you see, it does. The front one doesn't spin, but the differential thrust actually will make it spin when you're taxiing. And so if you're going forward, you can give it some differential thrust, and it will. Like I said, I don't know how well you'll be able to see this, but we'll try. You can see how nose lighted, tail heavy it is. And the rear mains, as you can see, are behind the propellers, but a little bit in front of the center of gravity. So that's a good thing to keep it down, keep the nose down. But with the Turniggy 2200 at 25 to 35 amps or 25 to 35 C, really gives it more power than the puny little stock E-Flight battery. You see, I don't even fly with it. I do if my main one's a little dead. But it's overall a great plane for starters, especially with the oh shit button, as I like to call it. When you plug it in, you immediately have to put it on the ground, and I'll actually show that really quick. Let me find a battery. Oh yeah, duh, I just threw one. I'm just going to demonstrate the calibration. As soon as I can find the plug. There it is. Everyone always says the first thing you're supposed to do is turn on your receiver. Your transmitter. But with this, I like to leave my transmitter off for a sec. I'm going to have to put the phone down for a sec, but as you see, I got the connector. So, phone's going to go right there. Hang on one sec. But when you plug it in, the ailerons are going to do that. Right side up, left side down. Now, it's on a level surface. When you turn on your transmitter, you will actually see it calibrate itself. Up, down, it's calibrated. So if you get in any trouble, just hit that button, completely straightens out. And as you can see, there's a lot of throw. and the differential thrust. That's a full right rudder, full left rudder, and then throttle, full right rudder. But even with the rudder, you have to sort of keep the aileron sort of turned to the left when you're giving it right rudder, or it will roll a little. Because when you're using the differential thrust, one motor will almost completely shut off. And I really don't use the differential thrust because one motor is not enough power for this thing. That's why I'm definitely going to be going with the 180 Extremes. But like I said, overall, it's a damn good plane when it comes to trainers. I'm new at it, so it was a perfect plane. $179.99 for the entire setup. It's ready to run, but when you do get it, you do have to put the, like I said, the wing tips on, the little, I guess these would be stabilizers. I'm not exactly sure what they're called. You got to do that on both sides. You have to put the stationary rudder in place and put the landing gear on, and that's it. Put your battery in place, turn on your transmitter, plug it in. But I like to turn my transmitter on afterwards because that will make it so I can put the battery in and then get it to a level place. So usually you have to put the battery in and put it down real quick so you don't throw the gyros off. Well, if you plug it in and then wait to turn your transmitter on, it'll give you more time to for the gyros to calibrate, because it doesn't calibrate until it gets a message from the transmitter. That's basically all there. And if it's not getting any signal, it will actually do that. I don't understand. That's not very smart, especially seeing if it loses connection with the transmitter, it's going to roll to the left hard and you're going to crash. So I don't understand why it lifts up like that, but keep your transmitter linked. It comes with a bind cable that you actually have to plug in to get the throttle started. I didn't like that because I was trying to figure out why the hell isn't my throttle going, but I got it. That's it for my review on the DeltaRay. Peace like usual.